You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This is the Wisdom by WESA show on the Horse Radio Network. This is Mike Donnell.
I'm Casey Wilbanks.
And this is Sofia Aguila. Welcome to Wisdom by WESA on the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This podcast is brought to you by the Western and English Sales Association, WESA, which provides the world's largest trade events for retailers, manufacturers, and sales representatives of the equestrian industry. In this podcast, we feature exclusive interviews with noteworthy Western and English personalities, retailers, and exhibitors who you've always wanted to talk to. Don't miss out on all the news for manufacturers and retailers in the equine industry.
Hey, Sophia. So last week we were talking about FAQs. And so through social media, you have another question that is worth sharing the answer to.
Yes, that's right. So we got some questions about the floor plans, and I know it can be confusing, so I'll try to summarize it. So WESA's floors are on 11 and 14. All of those exhibitors on those two floors are WESA exhibitors. And then we also have a brand new permanent showroom space on 10, which are all also WESA exhibitors. And they are next to additional temp space for WESA. So lastly, we have some additional exhibitors on other floors, but basically the main floors are 10, 11, and 14.
Also, I remember there being signage about the members on those floors. Is that still the case?
Yes, each floor that's not 10, 11, or 14, but includes a WESA exhibitor, will have signs listing all WESA exhibitors on other floors. And then when you take a look in the directory or on the app, you'll find them not just listed, but also highlighted on the floor plans. So that'll make it easier to actually find them.
And there's another sign change for the 11th floor. Can you share more?
Yes. So because we're all sold out on the entire 11th floor, that floor is packed with WESA temp exhibitors, and it can be kind of tough to navigate that floor. So we added directional signage at each crossover aisle to help actually navigate those aisles and to know which way to turn. So hopefully that will help. And that hopefully should get everybody set. And we can't wait to see everybody in just a few weeks.
Doug Naylor joined Wrangler 24 years ago, right out of college, and has progressed up the ladder to his current position as Director of Key Western Accounts. He joins us to talk about his career at Wrangler, what's changed over the 2.5 decades, and his relationship with his customers. Doug Naylor, thank you for taking the time to join us on our show here at the Wisdom by WESA podcast.
It's my pleasure to be here.
I think it'll be a lot of fun. Of course, everybody knows Wrangler. It's an iconic name in the Western wear industry. You have had 24 years there, and I think that's an interesting perspective to start with because Wrangler's always been, a huge, very prominent brand, but I'm wondering if the brand and the company is the same as it was 4 years ago.
Well, that is a great question. Interesting when you think about a brand being a part of your life, literally for half your life. Obviously, there's a lot of change that has gone on. To say it's a different world is kind of a tricky question. Obviously, there's been many changes over the years, but the root of what we do and what our brand stands for has remained fairly consistent throughout the years.
The retail channels have changed a little bit as well. A lot of the mom and pop retailers who were probably carrying the brand 24 years ago may no longer be in business or may have closed themselves down. Your focus is on the biggies, the big name brands, the Boot Barn and the Cavenders. And tell me what it's like to work with those kinds of huge retailers with major distribution power, major marketing power, and to be a part of that team.
It's an interesting, every day's a challenge. I grew up in the mom and pop world and my heart is with many of those accounts still. I think they are the lifeblood of our industry. That being said, the big retailers are definitely important in keeping our industry alive and thriving. Um, a lot of the challenges are the same. At the end of the day, we need to try to sell as much product as we can for as a fair of price we can and help our retailers make money. The difference really comes into, how those businesses are approached from a scale standpoint. There's, one product can essentially, in the Boot Barn standpoint, can be distributed to more than 500 doors. So obviously, there's a few more decisions to be made when you consider both how you sell that product in, but also how you manage the inventory while it's there, and then also having a plan in the rare event it doesn't work on how to get out of that inventory.
Okay. And you were also saying that that floor where the inside those stores, those retailers, was a very important piece of marketing real estate for you.
Absolutely. When you're a wholesaler that relies primarily on retail distribution, not that we don't have a few retail stores, but definitely the primary part of our business is through retailers. We can do all the work on the inside of our corporate office to put plans together, product together, have marketing presentations, and then we rely on our retailers to share that with our consumers out there. So having these big accounts and the relationships with them so that they represent your brand the way you see it is important, because obviously they're also trying to do the same thing with their brand. So having a good partnership is important so that you can achieve each other's goals, so that your brand and the way you represent your brand aligns well with their brand and how they represent theirs.
And I know, of course, Wrangler has had a long history of relationships with the rodeo world. You also, I know, have marketed and carved out a portion of the marketing budget to present Wrangler as the jeans for the working man, the guy who's not on the range, but he's, he's driving a forklift, or digging a ditch, or laying pipe, or something like that. It's not just the cowboy brand; it's really the working man's brand. But the Western influence really is, in my mind, is what gave the brand the strength, and then the opportunity to let other occupations, other businesses, other retailers take advantage of that momentum.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. When you think about a cowboy, and really we're talking more about the spirit of a cowboy these days than an actual working cowboy, that spirit is embodied by many, many professions. And honestly, it can go anywhere from someone who, quote unquote, plays cowboy on the weekends and works in a white collar day job during the week, to someone who makes their living in a more hands-on trade. There's that spirit of adventure, the spirit of hard work, authenticity, having good moral background, a strong work ethic. Those are all things that I think that the cowboy spirit embodies, and that many consumers out there, thankfully, identify with. And that's where our brand really tends to resonate.
Okay. I'm going to bring Casey in here. Casey, been a rodeo contestant from the time she was old enough to walk. She did college rodeo. She's been with Wrangler for a long time. Casey, jump in here.
Well, my heroes have always been cowboys. I always say that. But let's talk about cowgirls wearing Wrangler jeans too, okay, guys? The working cowgirl, I should say. There's something I want to mention just right off, just talking about, cowboys wearing these jeans, etc. There's something that has evolved over the time. So when I was first with Wrangler, well, let's go way back. Little Britches Rodeo Finals. I used to you would win at the finals certificates for Wrangler jeans, and then it transformed into my high school years where I was on the Wrangler high school rodeo team. And so now, but I wear Wrangler everywhere now. The products have evolved and expanded so much that there's dresses. My daughter has the cutest little Wrangler dress. And so it's not just in the arena anymore, or it's not just working, but there is really something in the Wrangler apparel to wear.
The women's business is one that we've definitely paid a lot more attention to in my career. When I started with Wrangler, the women's fit was in question. There were some of our Silver Lake high-rise bareback jeans from the 90s were a great fit, but as women's trend and fit preferences changed a little bit. I'm not sure we kept up in the early 2000s with that. Probably back in the late 2000s, we really started making a real strong effort to create and establish a women's business that was really focused on fit. And that's where I think some of the collaboration of our parent company, Contour Brands, has really helped us. We also own the Lee brand, and we also have a global design community that works in Europe. And so bringing all those pieces together has really helped us to forge a new path in women's fit and fit solutions. And to your point, I see Wrangler worn every day. I see Wrangler worn in all walks of life, and they look great on many, many different body types, shapes, and sizes. So that's really, really exciting to see. As a father of 3 daughters, I especially am happy to see that Wrangler can fit many body types.
Sure. Thanks to Wrangler, my daughter and I's closets are full of Wrangler clothes. But interestingly enough, Christmas is just right around the corner, or maybe when this show post Christmas will be over. But nonetheless, I like to give back to Wrangler too in ways. And I mean, I don't talk about it much, but when I go to gift give, I buy Wrangler. And cool facts, you guys have expanded outside of clothes. So this year, for my dad's beloved border collie dog Diogi, she's gonna get a red. It's a toy. It's a dog toy, and it looks like a red rope. It's the cutest darn thing ever, and that was new for me. You guys have moved into dog toys, dog clothes. I am a shareholder in a construction company, so after remodel projects, I've given gifts with the very nice Wrangler blankets inside. And I just think that's very cool because not only has Wrangler been so loyal to the rodeo world and the Western lifestyle for so many years, the continued expansion and offering those additional products as well.
That's one of the nice byproducts of having a strong brand. And I've got to give credit to our brand team because they have done a tremendous job in the last 5 or 6 years of really elevating our brand presence in the global marketplace, really, but especially here in the United States. And with that, companies have reached out increasingly wanting to be partners with us. And the dog accessory business is a perfect case in point there, because I would have never dreamed we've had really quality dog beds and dog handkerchiefs and leashes and collars and the bedding you mentioned is just phenomenal and comfortable. So cool. and it's so great to see our brand show up in unexpected places.
Yeah, it's so cool. I just mentioned your loyalty to the Western lifestyle a second ago, and I want to go back to that because it goes beyond just having a presence in the rodeo and Western lifestyle. Wrangler is always there. And for one instance, I can give actually two. The Smokehouse Creek Fire in the Panhandle of Texas that was so devastating. I heard the story of a little boy that he's a little cowboy, and that's all he wants to do is cowboy. And all he really cared about was his Wrangler snap shirts and his Wrangler jeans, and he lost it all in a house fire. And when I reached out to Wrangler, asking if they would help me bless this little boy, there was no hesitation. It was a yes immediately, and they restocked his wardrobe. And that's one example. And years ago, the FFA team at my alumni, I was an alumni from Pueblo County High School. They asked for donations, and I helped them out. And then I asked Wrangler if they would be interested, and they fitted the whole team from the school with Wrangler shirts. That is something that Wrangler is known for. They are always there. They are always loyal, and they're always willing to give and help.
I appreciate you recognizing that. It is something that we strive to be there for is for the community. This last year, we've really tried to focus even more so on that. We've got we call it our grassroots team, but essentially it's a group of employees, mostly sales employees, that volunteer their free time to help out with rodeos and other ag events throughout the country. And our push this year has been to go beyond the sponsorships, which we do a lot of sponsorships. And a sponsorship to me is when we offer financial support for visible recognition, either in arena or otherwise, but to really go into the support function where we show up. where we are there, where we're not just a check being handed over, but a handshake and a smile to help where needed. And I'm so glad to hear that has touched you personally in those ways. I also serve on the National FFA Sponsors Board. So trying to identify ways we can connect to the ag community in every way possible is just very important to me and to the brand in general. So we'll continue to do that. Thankfully, when you make clothes, you tend to have some of them lying around every now and then. So when somebody needs anything, we can certainly send some their way.
Well, and Wrangler, not just a long-standing relationship in the Western lifestyle, but also here with WESA. And your relationship with them is a long-standing one too. So I think there's something to be said for the longevity of all these relationships.
I think our industry to me is strong in so many ways, but yet can be so fragile when you stop and think about, just the sheer tightness of everything. And what I mean by that is it wouldn't take too many big players to fall out to really cause the industry to not be as strong as it is currently. Hesitate calling it fragile, but I would say it could be compromised fairly easily if we don't all stick together in a lot of ways. And that's where I think, organizations like WESA really help bring everybody together in a way that individual brands couldn't support. And so from that standpoint, I think it's important for brands like Wrangler that maybe have a little bit more leverage than others to step in and really support organizations so that the whole industry can not just survive, but thrive.
Speaking of WESA, the show coming up in January, it's so exciting. And we always talk about the show, just how neat it is. People aren't just doing business. There's a lot of friendships that start there and remain there. Just talk a little bit about your specific relationship with WESA.
WESA, for me, I'm fairly new to the organization. I grew up in the Dallas area, Texas area sales, and worked out of the Dallas office. And the WESA group was always, I'm going to try to do it the rest of the show.
No pressure. No pressure. None at all.
The WESA group was always handled out of our Denver show office. So when it moved to Dallas in a couple of years ago, I took over managing that relationship, and I admittedly I'm not as engaged as my predecessors were in that relationship piece, but we're definitely there every day and open to have conversations when and where needed to help promote the success of the shows, but also the organization.
Chat a little bit about FFA and how you see that organization in terms of contributing to society, for lack of a better term.
Oh, you set me up on a tee here. I could go off for another hour on this now, but FFA is tremendously important to me. Really long story short, or you might disagree with that here in a second, but I owe my career to FFA. I was we called it the co-op program back then, but got my first job at a feed store through FFA, working for the same ag teacher my dad had, working at the same feed store my dad worked at. The owner of a Western store shopped at the feed store. That was my connection to the Western industry. And then the sales rep for that Western store suggested I work for Wrangler. So here I am today. That being said, the FFA organization in general is over 1 million members strong. And these young adults are out there solving tomorrow's problems. And they're such an inspiring group of leaders. I tell everyone if I could have a whole organization full of former FFA members working for me, I'd have the strongest workforce in the country. I mentioned earlier, I'm on the National FFA Sponsors Board, and we do a lot of work with the national organization, and I'm just inspired every time I get around that group. Wrangler's been a sponsor of FFA for more than 50 years, and obviously, a lot of our consumers are ag members, but when you get right down to it, or FFA members, when you get right down to it, our brand relies on cotton, and cotton is an agricultural industry, and it's really comes full circle when you think about it that way. We rely on them, they rely on us. So if you don't know anything about FFA, I highly encourage you to reach out and do a little bit of research on it, because it's just a phenomenal organization with, everything from leadership to legislation to actual running of farms and ranches, and really pioneering the path forward for sustainability and feeding the world with more and more people in it.
Well, and I think it's great that Wrangler supports FFA. We all know they're a great organization, but I did want to just bring that up because I know that that's not only important to Wrangler, but it's near and dear to your heart because you put a lot of time in it. I think we've covered the waterfront here. It's been great to hear your story. Casey, thank you for bringing in the personal rapport you have with Wrangler. And I really enjoyed having you on the show as our guest, Doug.
Absolutely. I enjoyed the time as well.
Okay, thank you. Show notes and links from today's show can be found at wisdombywesa.com. And if you've got feedback, we'd love to hear it. There's a contact link on that website.
The Wisdom by WESA show will be published on the 15th and 30th of every month. You can listen on most of your favorite podcast players, and you can also listen on wisdombywesa.com. Be sure to visit all the great shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com. WESA, where the industry meets.